Hello, everyone. Welcome back to our quick overview study guide of the New Testament. We are in Mark chapter 13, the Olivet Apocalypse. It has its parallels in Matthew 24 and then Luke 17 and 21. We just had this beautiful story earlier about the widow giving all she had to the temple as a show of faith that they didn't perceive even after Jesus pointed out, but instead pointed out to Jesus these great buildings, and Jesus said to them, these great buildings will be destroyed. Now on the Mount of Olives, where this gets its name, Olivet Apocalypse, the unveiling, the apocalypse, Peter, James, John, and Andrew, so just 4 people privately, according to Mark, tells when it's going to be fulfilled and what will be the sign of the questions that they ask. The first thing Jesus says, and this comes from the other two, but notice in Luke 17:22, you'll see this: see that no one misleads you. When Jesus comes back, he's not coming back the way he is now. He'll be coming in, according to Mark, in clouds. I don't see how you could see something that's in a cloud, but that's what Jesus says, because before that, in the Greek word, it says, you will see, which means perceive. So you will perceive the Son of Man, which is supposed to be Christ, as far as we know. Not sure. But he will come with glory and power. God's glory and God's power, or God's power and God's glory, as it says. But he's telling them the beginning of birth pains here. Kingdom will rise up against kingdom. There'll be earthquakes. Now this is pre-70 AD. This is around 33 AD when he dies. So 40 years are going to go by. And the emphasis that you hear of what is actually being said by Christ is, I'm coming back. You need to pay attention. You need to look for these signs. And that's what he's laying down here. Just like the days of Noah will be the days of Jerusalem. Everything will be fine. And then all of a sudden, the floods will come. It's not a tsunami. It just starts filling up. It's flooded. No big deal. But then it keeps getting flooded. And after a while, people start to get worried. That's the parallel to that story here. Things are going to start happening. No big deal. We have wars all the time. We have earthquakes all the time. Pompeii was at this time. Life goes on, but it just keeps getting worse and worse and worse. And then they will be flogged in synagogues by governors and kings for his sake. It's a testimony. This is where he says, don't worry about what you say beforehand. The Spirit will speak for you. People will divide along lines, which typically happens during war and things of this nature. People just start to lose their minds, and it's basically every man for himself. But the one that endures to the end will be saved. Now, you'll see the abomination of desolation. This is one of the signs that Jesus is referring to. What will be the sign of your coming and of the end of the age? It's actually on 2 questions because they both happen at the same time here in reality. They may not be aware of that. But this abomination of desolation, just like in Matthew, is actually told what it is in Luke. The abomination of desolation turns out to be the Roman army marching on Jerusalem. And then again, this is a very good way of understanding how you may be under the impression of the abomination of desolation being something else. But they tell you what the abomination of desolation is. It's the Roman army. A lot of people still do not see this. They disagree. But this is where it is in the sequence when you line it up. That's what he's referring to. It will turn out to be the Roman army. And that's what the abomination of desolation is. Those who are in Judea must flee. That's again when Jesus is talking in other parallels, like in 17 of Luke. He's saying, don't even get your coat. If you're in the field, just run. When you see the Roman army, run. When you see this abomination of desolation, you got to run. That's your sign. That's the sign of the Son of Man that has come. That's what you've been waiting for the entire time. When I tell you to be vigilant, that's what you need to be vigilant for. When you see that Roman army march in there in the spring of 70, you just book it. You run. Don't take anything with you. Just leave. And here we have, the references as well. Don't get your coat. But pray it won't happen in winter, because again, Jesus doesn't know when this is going to happen. Jesus isn't God. He knows it's going to happen, but he doesn't know when God plans on doing it. But hope that it's not in winter, for those days of time of tribulation, such as not occurred since the beginning of the creation of God until now, and never will. Pay attention to that. Never will. So this happened in 70 AD. It's not going to happen again. But he's referring to Judaism. Judaism is what's important to these people. That's the center of their universe. But Jesus is telling them it's all going to go away. That's the context that they're referring to, not the entire planet. George, the Lord will shorten those days. That's important because they're getting out. They're the special group. They're the loyal followers. And just like Noah and just like Lot, they'll get out. They'll escape it. But everyone else, well, we only need to look at history to figure out what happened to those people. But after those days of tribulation, now Matthew says immediately after. So there's no break here. And you can use other parallels to fill in the gaps. Because here it says after the tribulation. And Matthew says immediately. So you can use that here as well to understand that there's no gap between the abomination of desolation and when the sun will be darkened. You have to understand that this happens in sequence. It keeps going. It doesn't stop. There's no gap. It's not like it stops for 2,000 years or anything. It keeps going, and it keeps going. And you'll see here, it's more of cosmic. This is what refers, you see it in the sun will be darkened. That's Old Testament references here of when God came again. This seems to be his modus operandi. He comes in this fashion. They will perceive the Son of Man in the clouds, in the clouds with great power. That's God, more than likely, and glory. Again, that's probably more than likely we're referring to God. This is God's show. Jesus is a part of it. So I'm not minimizing what Jesus is doing, but it's God's show. Jesus is a part of it, just like we are. And he will gather the elect from four winds. This is the judgment, what he's referring to here. Will gather his elect. More likely, this is just referring to people that have died, Jews, Old Covenant Jews. That's what the judgment is. It's for the Jews. It's for the Old Covenant people. The New Covenant people are in a different system. That system, when they die and their name is written in the book of life, they'll go to heaven just like these people did. But before this, Jesus paid the price for them. Some of them did go to heaven during what is referred to as the 1,000 years, but not all of them. As you'll see in Revelation 20, at the end of Revelation 20, there's still people that hadn't been divided up yet. And that's also at the last half of Matthew 25, as we went over. And they're talking about the fig tree, and he's given simple analogies. These are simple analogies. He's saying, look, when you see leaves on branches, when you see this stuff, and you say, oh, summer's coming, it's near. I could tell that this plant is starting to change. In the same way, from what I'm telling you, you'll be able to perceive the same thing. He's just giving an analogy. You could see it. When you see that Roman army, you book it because you know what's coming. That's the analogy he's giving here. And it's the same all over with any reference. It's the only one that's referring to Israel is giving the fruits. Israel wasn't given the fruit, so it's going to be destroyed. That was a premonition that he had. He's letting them in on what's going to happen to them in the future. The people that haven't produced any fruit. So that in that sense, in that tree represented the old covenant's people. In that sense, in that one. When you see these things happening, recognize he is near, right at the door. Okay? So when you see all this celestial thing start happening, right after the tribulation, the Roman army, and then these celestial things, you'll know he's right at the door. Who's right at the door? The Son of Man. Who's the Son of Man? Well, who do you think it is? He refers to himself many times as the Son of Man. He says he's going to be coming with power and glory. That's God. Heaven and earth will pass away, but my words will not pass away. So this age, you hear this age and age to come, this is the same thing as what he's referring to here. There's a new age, heaven and earth, and there's the old heaven and earth. Then you see again in Revelation 20, heaven and earth just fled away from the face of God and no place was found for it. It just didn't fit anymore. It's gone. But the new heavens and earth, the one that we're in now, exists. But his words will never pass away. And they haven't, have they? They've actually, you could get access to his words almost anywhere. You could be on the moon and get internet probably, and you can read this stuff. So his words are very much around. But he doesn't know when it's going to happen. Nobody knows except the Father alone. Remember that. Only God, only our Father knows when it's going to happen. And it turned out to be 40 years, which matches up with a generation. So it seems like Jesus didn't know what was going to happen, which turned out to be 40 years that God gave them to get their acts together. And you hear all these stories of the rich man. Hopefully 40 years, he would have realized what was going on and turned and repented and did the right thing by Jesus to become perfect. May have happened an hour after that conversation. Hopefully it happened before his death, but that's what this time was for, to let the gospel grow like that mustard seed. Let it grow basically in a greenhouse, and then right before this destruction, it's big enough to be planted into the ground and left on its own. It could take care of itself now. It doesn't need the apostles anymore. It doesn't need all the helpers, and it just, all that remains are disciples. All the work's been done. Everything's been done. So what exists is what they started. And it's grown and grown and grown all on its own. It's grown into some pretty weird things, but everyone is aware. And everyone can pray to God at any time and ask anything they want to be guided. And then, again, we have kind of what is happening in Matthew. Keep on the alert. Know the appointed time when will come, like a man that went away on a journey, upon leaving his house, putting his servants in charge. You also will notice when you read this that every time this master goes on a journey, he always comes back in these parallels. And that's very important to understand, because they always say, well, Jesus hasn't come back yet. Well, every time he gives one of these analogies, he always comes back in their lifetime of the people. Here it says he puts his slaves in charge. We're his slaves. You know, he doesn't say, hey, look, I don't know when I'm coming back. It's probably going to be a couple thousand years. So you make sure you're on the lookout and you relay this information to every generation after it until it happens. No. Jesus isn't going to come back to Jerusalem in this analogy, this master, which turns out to be a pizza shop and a nail salon in downtown Jerusalem, and says, "Okay, I'm here. I'm back. Where's my slaves that I put in charge?" And those people are going to recognize immediately what's going on. No, that's not what he's saying. He's saying the person that's leaving is coming back to the same people. And it all lines up with each other with this generation thing. Jesus is going to come back in a generation, the same timeline as these four. They'll see it. Be on the alert. That's what he's telling them.